All right, good evening everybody. My name is Jacob Brosius. I'm a senior industrial design student at PhilaU University, and this is my industrial design journey. So my journey actually began pretty early on. I had this passion and drive to draw, create, and problem solve, which can naturally be seen through the art that I created throughout high school. And as that continued, I really saw that this was something that I wanted to carry on through a career as I continued on to college. And after speaking to a teacher that I had, she introduced me to a student who was studying industrial design. It sounded pretty cool, and I thought so. He said it sounded pretty cool, and I thought so as well. So throughout my time at Philadelphia University, I've been able to now look back at the skills that I had in my youth, and now focus in on not only just being a good artist, but learning what it means to be an industrial designer. First and foremost, we need to be user-centered. This is really why we create products, and it creates the purpose for what we're doing. Becoming good at communication, both verbally and visually, so that you can actually get this product into production or communicate it to your team members. And also just being adaptable. As industrial designers, there's many different situations that we have to design for, and being able to put yourself in those shoes is really key to our design process. So the first project I would like to introduce you to today is Sidekick. It's a silicone wallet. This was developed in collaboration with international housewares company Umbra, as well as Target retailers. So with this project, the user came first. As college students, specifically first-year students, there's so many times that we have to carry all these extra things that can become lost. Primarily the ID, as well as your room key. These were centered to the design, and really this is why the product exists. And it all conveniently stored in one location so that the user would be able to easily navigate to their dorm as well as through class. So at the beginning of this project, I knew the two items that needed to be involved. It was the ID and the key. But I didn't know how these two were going to interact, and that drove me to what I knew best, which was drawing. But not only drawing in the sense that to create something beautiful, but to create something that communicated what I was doing. This furthered into the creation aspect of 3D prototypes, both in cardboard as well as 3D printed. And this continued developing the form, as well as giving the ability to test this with users and seeing how they actually interacted with this object before I actually presented the final design. Moving forward, as this was in a collaboration with two companies, I needed to be able to communicate what this design was without actually giving them one early on. So creating these technical drawings, as well as just defining what the material was, and knowing that this could actually be manufactured was very important. And as I said, this was in collaboration with Target and Umbra, and I had the opportunity to have it produced and sold this past fall. And it's been in many college students' hands this year. It was sold in over 2,000 Target stores nationwide, as well as on the online retail. And it was awarded first prize by the team at Umbra. So the second project I have is in a collaboration with Timex, and it's called the Roll Alarm Clock. So this alarm clock focuses in on something that is typically not used in the newer generations. So newer generations between 16 to 36 are going away from using the typical alarm clock and going more towards the use of their phone as their primary timepiece. Specifically looking at active lifestyles, this is something that they don't actually like. They want something that would be easier. They don't want to have that alarm on their phone. It's too easy to fall back asleep, and there's really no tactile feedback. The alarm clock has really kind of been this same item for many years, and as a team we saw this as an opportunity. Exploring again many different forms that this could take. How could it interact with the user? How could this be different than every other alarm clock that's out on the market? And ultimately settled on the cone design. So this cone design actually allows for a couple of neat features. So waking up, rather than having that typical, you just slam the button, how about you just hit this alarm clock right in the face? Because that's how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Or going along with that healthy lifestyle of the user, we looked into the American Health Association, and they actually recommend that the healthy amount of time for a nap is 20 minutes. So incorporating that into the design and keeping with that user and their healthy lifestyle. And that's activated by placing it onto its face. So one thing that was really crucial was sticking to things that actually could be manufactured, and how are we going to make these functions work in unison. So making the turn, on the back of the design, there was a turn dial, which is displayed up here in one, that actually allowed you to switch between settings, and then by rolling the device, actually scrolled hypothetically, through the numbers and allowed you to change the time with more of that tactile feedback that they wanted. As well as just that press on the front face, the feedback was that it was very satisfying. Continuing on, it's not a product unless it can be manufactured. So understanding how these parts were going to fit together, as well as what parts were actually going to be considered, to communicate that back to the team at Time X, and making sure that they understood that we thought this all the way through. The final example that I have of my current work is Royale Rum. And this is actually a part of an internship I had where I was invited out to California by a man named Maurice Kambar. He himself is an inventor and creator, and he's most notably known for the creation of Sky Vodka. And you might ask, why is an industrial designer dealing with this guy? But you know, we have to be adaptable as industrial designers. And going into the situation, I thought that I would be doing products, and I was doing a product, just a very different type of product than what I thought prior. And that was actually developing a brand of rum, a concept for a brand of rum that he was thinking of. So early on, Maurice gave the idea that he wanted something old. That's really all the bare bones that he gave us as a design team. And that really kind of led to many different directions that this could go. It ultimately kind of left the rum feeling very generic and kind of cliche in the aspect of what a rum brand is. But going back to what Maurice is and what his brand is, he's very regal, he's elegant, he owned Sky and created Sky in that high-class premium product. So we tried to bring that back, and the idea was that this would be coming sourced out of Cuba. And specifically, Maurice had actually had a tie to that, kind of growing up in his youth in the 1950s. That was kind of the hot spot. That was where all the clubs were. So we decided to actually incorporate that into the design. As well as, the rum actually was not a spice rum. It was a white rum. And that was very unclear at the beginning of the project. So we had to adapt a lot of the labels, and that changed a lot of the design direction moving forward, and how this actually would look on the bottle. So this is actually the final concept of where the product was whenever I left. And it kind of goes with that style of the 1950s, as well as keeping to Maurice's brand and what he represents. And so after going through all these, what really comes together as me as an industrial designer is taking that drawing and that passion that I had in my youth, and really connecting it to the user-centered focus, as well as the communication and adaptability. And the best representation of this is my current project by Capstone. This is currently a work in progress, where I'm actually trying to develop an adaptable children's indoor fort building system that promotes the development of creativity and cognitive problem solving. And this kind of goes back to my own youth and where I saw myself going. So I kind of identified that there's this need for products that can actually learn through play, and that ultimately there's this play area of constructive play that develops areas of cognitive skills, stress relief, maturity, and practical skills through the activity of building forts. Looking at the market of forts, you might not think that there's a market for fort toys, but there's actually a category of toy forts. And there's a really big disconnect between that creative aspect of traditional fort building with blankets and pillows. So I'm trying to bridge that gap. And currently, this is what's on the market. These are the fort toys. And as you can see, the price points are rather high, and that zone in the red is actually the average spending of parents for a child's new toys. And if you look there on the far right, this is a similar product. It's geared towards the outdoors, where I'm trying to gear this towards the indoors. And it really acts as that connector piece that the children could benefit from. So looking at doing interviews, the one issue that people are having is that blankets are the big issue with indoor courts. Though they have these materials, they can't actively apply them in a way that they want to. So therefore, I'm developing the type of connector to connect these blankets to different things. So the blankets to pillows, blankets to chairs, blankets to sheets, anything you can think of, this is going to connect it. And as you can see, I've done a vast amount of prototyping to this point. And I'm really getting down to the point where now I can actually test this with users. These armatures are proving to be very beneficial, and I'm hoping to begin testing actually this next weekend. So as you can see, I've had a pretty adventurous journey in industrial design so far, and I can't imagine to see what's going to happen in the future. Thank you.